Hi.
Howdy.
He's just shaking his head at me.
I
Staying
am
alive.
because first off, this is the Off the Cuff podcast. I'm Justin DeWeese. That's my beautiful wife Ashley DeWeese, and we just show up and spit all sorts of random nonsense at you.
Yep.
And I'm shaking my head because if you listened last week, and if you did, thank you. But if you listened last week, then you knew that someone was extra crotchety and cranky because she was experiencing her female gift. And this week she's not, so now she's like smiling
And I'm
and
like,
whole different person.
you
Welcome to my life.
get pumped for this episode today.
Oh, Lord Almighty.
You should be thankful, to be honest, because
Oh, enlighten me.
keep it spicy.
Yeah,
It's like you
so
get the
great.
gift of being married to multiple women at the same time without all of the conflict and consequences that would actually go along with that.
Yeah, there's no conflict or consequences here. That is questionable logic, ma'am.
Anyways, I am so stuffy today, which I kind of have a love-hate relationship with because obviously like it's not fun and super annoying, but I really love the way it makes my voice sound. I think it makes it sound sexy. You know?
Anyway,
You know? No?
no.
Wow.
Well, you sound stuffed up.
I know, but it
You
gives
sound like you have a speech impediment.
that's nothing against people that have speech.
I didn't say there was anything against people that had that.
I know, but I don't think I sound like I have a speech impediment. I think I just have a different tone to my voice.
Okay, well, potatoes,
Though
potatoes.
ultimately, I prefer the raspy voice, like when I'm almost losing my voice, which doesn't happen often.
I prefer when you lose your voice too.
I know you do.
Anyway, why are you stuffy?
Because yesterday was the first junior high cross country race of the season. So we were out in the grass and all of the things that the grass
Out in the
brings.
wilderness
Right.
to
So
cheer on old number 8.
that's why I'm stuffy. Yeah, and this is season 2 for us as cross country parents. You did not run cross country.
No, it's the same time as soccer.
Right.
So I wasn't going to do both. If I didn't do soccer, if they didn't have soccer, I might have, but probably not.
Right. And at that time in my life, running was not in my vocabulary at
Because
all.
running sucks.
No, there's some I wouldn't agree with that.
Oh, listen.
The old me would agree with that. But the new me, I still and I this isn't even a true statement, but I don't know any other way to say it. What I was going to say is I still would love to be a runner, which if you run, you're a runner. But I would love to be someone who actually does enjoy going out for a jog or for a challenging run. I would like to be that person, but I wouldn't really like to be that person because obviously I'm not pursuing that. So I really don't want to be that person.
Right. So listen, I say running sucks. If I go for a run and I get done with the run, I feel great. I'm glad that I did it. But running sucks in the standpoint of running sucks. Just going out and
But for some people don't feel that way, is all I'm saying.
yeah, like 0.5% of the population.
And I kind of wish I was someone who didn't feel that way, but it's just not a top priority for me to make myself a person who
So anyway,
really enjoys running. So
he
anyway,
didn't do any cross country.
we didn't. So Dax has been the one to expose us to this sport. And honestly, the only reason he started out doing it was because we said, hey, because his school doesn't offer soccer. So we were like, hey, you can either do cross country, which will help you work on your conditioning for soccer and basketball and baseball, or we will just have workouts ready for you to go when you get home from school on these days, because you're not going to come home and just sit down and play video games or bum around.
And he's experienced enough of our designed workouts to say, yeah, I'll do cross country.
Right.
Like quick.
So that was last year. This year, he actually tried to play the game of like, yeah, I don't really want to do it.
Yeah, he's full of crap.
And so again, we had a little quick conversation of, cool, if you don't want to do it, that's fine, but here's the alternative. And of course he was like, oh, I'm going to do it. But then very quickly, he was sold on it again. And this year, I think it's because I think he's sold on it for a lot of reasons this year. I think number one, he has a better understanding of how it is actually benefiting him in his physical conditioning and even mental conditioning, for his other athletics,
Yep.
as well as other things. Two, he loves being a part of a team. I mean, he loves competing individually, but he loves being a part of a team,
Right.
and being a part of something like that.
Hanging with the guys.
Despite his pushback, he does enjoy a good challenge.
Yep.
Um, and that's doing all of the things for him this year. So very, very quickly, we could not hear the end of what they were doing at practices, what his times were for each, every day at practice. Like, hey, we ran this, and here's what my time was. And he is hell bent on breaking the school record for the seventh grade boys 2-mile race.
Because if you're unfamiliar, cross country, junior high runs 2 miles, high school runs a 5K.
And there's a 4K option too.
Well, yeah, we don't talk about the.
Honestly, I think part of this too came at Banquet last year, because last year at Banquet, one of the top runners in the school, well, top athletes in the school, to be honest, and I don't recall his name. I think his name is Michael, but he's graduated. He was a senior. And this kid was just getting like award after award after award and setting, for records and different things. And so Dax sitting out, listening to these things is just like, oh yeah.
Right.
Like, I could do that. Oh, you could do that. And I think from that moment, the seeds were planted in his brain that he wanted to be one of those people to excel at that level.
Have his name on the wall.
So right now, since it started this season, he's been locked in on breaking that school record. And again, telling us about it every single day. He gets a lot of support and encouragement, not only from his coaches with how he's progressed, but also his teammates,
right.
And particularly the high school teammates. So junior high and high school run together
at practices
4 days a week. And then midweek, on a Wednesday, the junior high has off, and the high school still practices. So that's the only day they're not practicing together. But when they're practicing together, Dax is utilizing the high schoolers to kind of push him and be his pacers, so that he is continuing to get faster and excel, et cetera. And they're very complimentary of him. Like, Dax is mature for his age, really gets along with these boys. And so that's been a really good thing for him.
Yep.
So the backstory of that is, in telling all of that, is because not only has he been talking to us about his goal of breaking this record and how his times continue to improve personally in practices, but he's also been talking to his friends and teammates about it. So people know that that's his goal. And in fact, they have kind of also bestowed that goal upon him. I think it's kind of been like a mutual thing of like, hey, I want this. But his coaches and teammates have also been like, hey, you're totally going to get this record this year. So yesterday was the first meet. And like one should do anytime you're setting a goal, especially when you have like an event that's like part of the deadline or whatever, there also has to be, or should be, some talk as far as managing expectations, looking at what possible things lie in the way. And so that's part of the conversations that we've had with him, is not just the encouragement of him pursuing this goal, but also talking about, as this meet was approaching, hey, this is going to be the first meet, and practice versus a meet or a game,
always different.
Weather elements, not always the same. It was, Justin kept sharing, it's supposed to be a little bit hotter than what you've been running in recently, so that can have an impact. The course he was running, quite a few hills and things.
Very tough.
So just lots of different things that you have to manage expectations for. But he went into that race
convinced
he was going to blast that record, and not like blast it by miles, but he was going to hit the record. That was
race one, record set.
And I think we should pause there for a moment and talk about that kind of mentality. Because we're not just sharing this story to like talk about our kid and let you in on that, because you may or may not care about that. And we're not just sharing for people who have children and have it apply there. Like, we're talking about this because whether you're a parent or simply an individual that is establishing goals for yourself and maybe have similar traits to our son and ourselves, like, I think this is a valuable conversation. And so I believe first talking about that mentality of being convicted of the goal that you set for yourself.
Yeah, I mean, listen, if you set a goal and you're not sold out for it 100% in every aspect for yourself, guess what? You're not going to achieve it, or you'll achieve it by blind luck, right? It's just you have to have the conviction that A, you really want the thing that you say you want, and B, the conviction then to follow through on the actions required. Because if you don't have that full on conviction, all those actions become very difficult.
Well, and I believe the term that we would use today is you have to be delulu. You wouldn't say that, but I would. You have to be delusional at times. And this is something that as a person and as a parent has been a little challenging for me, if I'm being honest, even though I know that this is how it goes. But the way that Dax challenges me with this is I believe in setting goals and I believe in pursuing them with all of your full self.
Okay.
But something that I continue to work on is that being delulu about my goals, being 100% convicted and sold out for the goal or goals that I have set. And here's why. And I think many people can relate to this. You, I, I still think about, well, is this crazy? Like, am I being a little delulu, right? Like, is this, if I were to tell someone that this is my goal, if I were to speak about it to people outside of my family and whatever, are they going to be like, you are out of your mind? And so there's a little bit for me of still like overcoming like the what will people think about this goal that I have, as far as not even what they think about the goal, but do they think that I can accomplish this? Do they think that this is too far of a stretch for me? And so he challenges me in this way because I've had to put myself in check as a parent, because often when he set a goal, I want to try to manage his expectations in a way that I want to prepare him for not achieving that goal. Or I want to prepare him for thinking about maybe this could potentially be a little bit out of your league, right? Which in this case that's not the case, but I wanted to bring it up because I have to dial myself back, because the conversation that I've had with myself is, okay, you don't I don't want to put I don't want to put those limitations on him.
Right.
And I just don't want to use too much rhetoric to where it ends up sounding to him, or I end up convincing him that, oh, hey, maybe this particular goal that you set, maybe you should set smaller goals. Do you know what I'm saying? You're
Yeah.
acting like I'm like this is not a thing that I'm talking about, and I think it's a very important
Well,
thing.
clearly it's a thing you're talking about because you're talking about the thing.
You know what I meant?
But the as I was listening to you ramble on, the the reality of it is you need to reframe your thinking, right? From, oh, you have to be somewhat delusional, because no matter what your goal is, there are going to be people that are going to be like, oh no, that can't be done. You specifically can't do that thing.
Right.
So I guess I just look at it from the standpoint of like, to me, that's not delusional, right? It's more I'm not even sure what the phrase is, but it's just realizing that other people are always going to put caps that don't necessarily have anything to do with anyone.
think perhaps it's two different things. All I'm getting at with the like the Delulu thing is too many of us will play small because we think some super big goal is like crazy.
Sure.
And all I'm trying to get at is the people who are willing to be
A little crazy.
crazy, to be considered like you're delusional if you think you're going to be able to accomplish that. Like, you have to be at that level of conviction and belief
Right.
and be willing to set goals that seem super, super far fetched sometimes. Because if you don't, then you're never fully going to know what's possible for you or not. That's kind of all I was getting at as far as the Delulu thing.
Okay,
But yeah,
I'll allow it.
there's always going to be people that try to place limits on you based upon what they've experienced for themselves or in their own
Well,
life.
it's like that old saying, right? If you aim for the moon, even if you miss, you'll still land amongst the stars.
Right. But I think that's an area for people and for parents to be able to grow, which is why I shared that is I don't want to place those kind of limitations, and that it comes from a place of protection, right? Like
You
you're
want to keep him safe from
right.
disappointment and crushing loss.
Because of your own experience and you don't want them to experience that. But at the same time, like we should want them to experience
Right.
that, which is another lesson I learned yesterday. But anyways, so he's had this goal. We've been supportive of this goal. We have tried to talk to him about, just this is awesome. Go for it. You can totally do this. Also keep in mind that if it doesn't happen, it's the first race of the season.
Right.
Right? So we went out yesterday.
So we went out yesterday and it was hot.
It wasn't as hot as I thought it was going to be, though.
It wasn't. It wasn't as hot as this race was last year. At the same time, it was much hotter than the last couple weeks around here. And so, in his little mind, he's thinking, oh, here's been my 2 mile times these last couple weeks. The reality is now we're talking apples to potatoes. So, but he runs the race, starts out really well, ran a really good race.
Yeah.
Like he ran a really good race again for the first race of the season.
Of his second season doing
Right.
this.
And he crossed the finish line. The school record for the 2 mile for seventh graders is 14:33. He crossed the finish line at 14:59. So he fell short by 26 seconds.
And let me just say, the emotions that go through you, I don't know about you, I'm not dad. But the emotions that go through me during these races is like I'm at the finish line watching the clock. And all I'm doing, I know his goal time. I'm watching the clock. I'm looking for him. I'm looking for him. Kids haven't even started showing up, right? Like not even the first place person is coming in yet. And the time's ticking and the time's ticking. And my brain is going, oh, he's not going to get it. And then the first kids start showing up. And I'm like, okay, okay. And then I'm like, a minute's along. This is what's going on in my brain. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is going to go so quick. And then I'm like, it gets to like 13 minutes. And I'm like, okay. I'm like, a minute and a half is a long time. Like 90 seconds is actually a long time. He's got time to come around that corner and get up this hill and cross the finish line. And so pretty soon, like I see him and I'm like internally, he can't hear me at that point. So I'm not yelling. Justin's down along the way to try to catch him there. But internally, I'm just like, come on, kid, come on, kid. Like, like speed it up, turn it up, and that's where, it's out of my control.
Right.
It's totally out of my control. And, he's got to execute however. So as it was heartbreaking as he was coming up the hill, seeing that he was not going to make that time.
Well, I was sort of on the other side of the coin because I had started my watch when the race started. So I knew where we were at time wise. And like she said, this race finishes on this big incline. And I was down at the bottom to kind of give him some cheering on there. And she was at the top so she could get a picture of him cross the finish line and whatnot. And I was looking at the time and I didn't see the leaders yet. And I was like, oh man, maybe nobody finishes under that time in this race based on where they were at and whatnot. And then they started passing me. And I was like, oh man, he's not even going to be close. Because again, my brain, I'm not a runner. So my brain doesn't comprehend what's the time from here to here?
Yeah.
Like I thought, yeah, there's just no way. So I was really, and my instinct is to be down at the bottom of the hill. And when he enters my line of sight, to be screaming, go, go, go,
Yeah.
push, finish harder, do the da 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 da. He does not care for that kind of encouragement on the course, he has told us.
Which drives me
Right.
crazy. Because
So I got to bite my tongue.
well, because me, like that's what I want to hear.
Right.
I want to hear I want to hear you screaming at me to go harder, push harder.
I've seen you in the gym. You need it, to be honest with you. Wow, violence, ma'am. Anyway, so it's just, hey, you got it. Let's go. Come on, come on, come on. Against all my instincts.
I still yell like push your pace, push your pace.
But yeah, he finished at 14:59. And the thing you need to know about our little Dax is he is highly competitive.
Highly. That's probably an understatement.
Like they do in PE at school, they do a badminton and pickleball tournament individually every year. And he takes great pride in the fact that him and his partner have won like 4 years in a row, and they beat all the other classes, and like they just own.
And they don't really get anything. I mean, I think they got lunch with their favorite PE teacher, which is something.
Right.
But I mean, they don't. It's not like they get a plaque or they get their name
card
or they're up on a stage. Like nothing.
But like
it's important to him.
Those two things are like the most important thing of the school year to that kid. Very competitive. And when things don't turn out the way that he likes, he is very upset.
Yeah.
Which I get because I'm also very competitive. And so after the race yesterday, he was very upset because, again, he had it locked in his brain that I'm just going to set this record, race one this season, and then every race I'm going to improve on that record. And by the end of the year, that record is going to be unreachable for any human being that's ever lived on the face of this planet.
Well, and let's call that what it is. And again, like this is where I have a whole heck of a lot of belief, but like that kid, he is rock solid. When he is locked in on something that he wants to do, like it is full send delulu belief, which is so amazing and incredible, and that's where as a parent, sometimes the traits, sometimes the traits can be annoying. Sometimes the traits you're like, this is going to break your heart. But at the same time, man, I'm so thankful that he has that trait because I know how that is going to carry him in his life.
So he was very upset.
Yeah, I mean, he was crying, not like blubbering, crying, sad, like just mad at himself. Disappointed is probably how I would describe it. And I think this is where, there's a couple of things we're going to talk about here. But, aside from just the obvious, this is why it is tough for people to declare their goals and dreams publicly, with people outside of themselves. Because not only if you miss a goal, not only are you having to reconcile that with yourself, but you also know that other people knew.
Right.
And now when you feel like you failed at the goal, you're not only having to face yourself, but you then get concerned about how are other people going to perceive the fact that this thing I said I was going to do, I fell short.
Well, and we always tell ourselves that those other people are thinking, oh, Lord, what a failure that guy is. Can't believe that he thought he was going to do that.
And some do.
No, of course. You're never going to stop that. But most people won't be like that, right? So, and that's what that was our messaging to him. Because in this same race last year, he finished at 17 something.
I mean, he shaved like 3 minutes off of what his time was in this race last year compared to this year, which is ridiculous.
Right. He finished 21st this year.
Out of 102 kids.
Last year, he was in the bottom half.
Every race.
So, we had to, when we were talking to him, we said, hey, listen, I get it. Disappointed. didn't get the record this time. Here's the things that made that tough for this course to begin with: the heat, all the things, right? But in the midst of this disappointment, let's also focus on the fact that you shaved this time off, that you place so much better, that you feel better after this race than you did last year. All the things that are actually positives out of this.
Well, and I want to come back to that, but we also talked to him as well about, we understand why you're disappointed and frustrated.
Right.
Because I think the opposite way that you can sometimes go, either when talking to your children or talking to someone that you love about a goal that they've missed, is you completely try to like ignore or gloss over or downplay the feeling of frustration and disappointment. And I know for someone like me and you as well, like that can be frustrating, because you feel like, at least I do, when people are like, oh, it's okay because of X, Y, and Z, like I feel like the other person or people like don't really understand me. I feel like they don't understand the desire and passion that I had for that goal. And so I do think it's important, which is why we also talk about it, is, hey, I understand you're disappointed. I understand that you're feeling frustrated. It makes total sense. And what we both say to our kids is, we'd actually be a little concerned if you didn't feel some type of way about missing your goal. Because that, to me, that's a sign of a true competitor. That's a sign of a true leader, someone who's passionate, someone who cares, is they do have feelings of disappointment in those moments. And so we do acknowledge those feelings. We do address that. But then we also, as Justin said, talk about, let's zoom out and look at the big picture. Now, probably how we could improve is sometimes have more of that conversation with a little space in between the race and the moment, maybe. I don't know.
Well,
I don't know.
I disagree. Only from the standpoint of, I've been in that position and I know roughly the kind of thoughts that are going through his head at that time.
And so you need that light.
And so it's better, I think, to hear someone saying some of the positives, right? And again, like when I talked to him, I said, hey, listen, man, I get why you're disappointed. I get why you're upset. You wanted this record, you didn't get it today. I totally understand that. And you should be a little upset. At the same time, consider ... Well,
it's probably one of those cases where like you don't necessarily either want to hear that at the moment, or that they're not going to fully process it at the moment, but at least it is coming into their ears.
Right. And
as opposed to being left unchecked and only those negative, darker feelings.
And I'm validating
his own feelings,
his current feelings. I'm not telling him
you shouldn't feel like that,
or just blowing smoke up his ass and saying, oh, it was all great and because that's going to be completely tuned out.
Right. And again, that's where people feel like their feelings are disregarded. Right. And often, and again, typically, like, parents, friends, family, like they have good intentions. Like they think by saying like, you shouldn't feel bad about any of this because blah, blah, blah. So then right there, you're saying you shouldn't feel the way that you feel. Right. And each one of us have absolute, like it's our right to have whatever feeling that we're having. Right. So yeah, I think language in that moment of the validation of his feelings, while also, like you said, also consider these other elements.
Yeah, because, and again, like I've been in those shoes and all you're focusing on is the negative.
Right.
And so again, maybe he like heard it in the moment, or maybe it just was sound that kind of sunk in somewhere. But to be able to hear the affirmation side of it, I think is helpful.
Yeah, I see your
point. And until he punches me in the face after one of these, that's how I will continue to carry on.
Yeah, so like we said, he shaved like 3 minutes off of the time that he ran at that race the previous year. He's down like 2 minutes or a little less from his best race time
last
of
year.
the entire season last year. So
He's
he's
on an easy course.
right.
So,
He's
there's,
like far ahead of where he was previously. He will beat that record this year.
beyond a shadow of a doubt.
And this brings another valuable point when you're looking at the goals you set, because what we just talked about here, if we bring it into the health and fitness area, just in regard to weight, for example, this would be like someone setting a goal of losing 50 pounds by September 30th. And they get to September 30th and they get on the scale and they have only lost 25 pounds, right? Someone in the moment could focus on the fact that I just totally failed. I did not achieve my goal of losing 30 pounds. I only lost 25. Yes, understand the disappointment, understand why you're up in your feelings. At the same time, you did lose 25 pounds. That is progress. Right. You now have increased your cardiovascular system. You now have, gotten off this medication or that medication. So yes, you didn't hit that specific goal by this particular deadline, but you have progressed closer to it and reaped all of these other benefits along the way. And then this is where the question becomes, where some people, if they're only focused on whether they achieve that goal or not in that time frame, some people will then choose to stop pursuing it.
Right.
Well, see, I couldn't do it.
Do it.
All of these things I've been doing, not worth it, because the only thing they looked at is that one metric. And so then they quit and they digress and give up.
Right.
Smart people and people who have the right people in their life will understand that even though they missed the goal, they have progressed closer to it. And now they just need to readjust their deadline in the pursuit of it. And I think, as I've learned over time in my own personal development and journey, is that that is actually the point of goals. We shouldn't be setting goals that we hit every single time we set them. Because if you're setting a goal and every goal you set, you always achieve on the first try, then you're not setting big enough goals. Because goals ultimately aren't about the goal themselves. It's who you need to become
in the pursuit of that goal.
In the pursuit of that goal.
I already said that.
And so you need to have that stretch. You should expect to fail the first time around or the second time around at many of your goals, if they're indeed big enough. But what have you learned along the way? Who have you become? What skills have you acquired? How much closer are you to it? And then you adjust the timeline.
Well, and the flip side of that same coin is, if the only metric that you observe is the accomplishment of that goal or not. She just rattled off where you can stub your toe when you don't accomplish the goal. The flip side is, if you do accomplish the goal and your only metric is that goal, there's scientific backing that shows people that think like that then can tailspin, because all they were focused on is that goal.
Right.
And then after you accomplish it, you're like, well, shit, now what with my life?
Well, and in addition, especially in health and fitness, if you're only focused on losing the weight by the wedding, then you get to the wedding and now all of the habits that you have implemented along the way, you abandon because you're like, oh, well, I no longer need to do that. Right. Because I've accomplished the goal. And that's why we stress for ourselves, for our kids, and with our clients, that this is not just about doing the things in order to achieve the goal that you have. This is about becoming the kind of person with the kind of thoughts and habits that can achieve goals like that. Goal. Because then when you achieve that goal or not, you have become a different person. You become someone new. And so those things that you've done along the way, or those habits or standards or values that you've acquired, that becomes a part of who you are, your identity. Right. And then you take those with you. You don't abandon them because you're no longer in pursuit of the goal. Right?
Just drop the mic on y'all. Right.
You got some parenting advice. You got some, individual goal life advice.
You got her sexy snuffleupagus nose talk. I mean,
about the triple.
It's a full package podcast episode show here.
With that, I was also going to say that in the grand scheme of things, let's say he beats the school record this upcoming week in this
Okay.
next race. Then at that point, does it really matter that he didn't do it in the first race?
Right.
I mean, and that's the thing I say to my clients sometimes where they're like, oh, hey, I wanted to lose 15 pounds by this date. And we get to that date and they had only lost 10 and they're disappointed and whatever. And I'm like, okay, but like you have 5 more pounds to go. Obviously, it would be nice if you had lost your, 15 pounds at this point. But like 4 weeks from now, when you've lost the 5 pounds and hit the goal, like, are you going to care at that point? No,
Right.
because
You're going to tell people, I lost 15 pounds. You're not going to say,
well, I lost it.
I lost 15 pounds, but I didn't do it by September 1st.
Right.
Nobody does that.
Right.
And the record on the wall down at school is not going to say, Dax DeWeese, 2-mile record time, blah, blah, blah. Took him to the 5th race to get it.
Right. And if anything, that often contributes to the story.
Right.
Because when it has taken you several failures along the way, which I feel like we talk a little bit more about in society these days, like the process and the failures,
Right.
but still not enough because ultimately we see people up on a podium, we see people holding a trophy, and we're just like, yeah, they just won this in this moment. But, not often are a lot of people considering, hey, but they lost this game the
Right.
last 4 years in a row.
Which we all should, because are there any sports movies made where they win the first thing?
Right.
No.
Not usually, but then when it comes to our
I've been
own
kicked in the
lives,
teeth a couple times.
comes to our own lives, we somehow
Want it to
apply
be
different
different.
rules. So
That's
with
not.
that, the big nug, set big, crazy, scary goals. Be a little bit delulu. Understand not everyone is going to understand the goals that you have and they don't need to, and that's okay. And understand that, just because you maybe don't accomplish your goal the first time around doesn't mean that you haven't made progress, doesn't mean that you're not better, and doesn't mean that you should abandon the goal and that it's
Right.
not going to happen.
Right.
Whew, this is a good one. I'm on fire.
Good for you.
Need to go take
You're
a
going to be
take
on
a-
fire if you keep saying the word Delulu. I'm going to take you over my knee and dispense the king's justice.
Promise.
And with that, we got to go.
See you guys.